All right, so we are officially called to order. I guess the next section is I don't see any owners aside from those on the committee online. But if anybody would like to have any comments, I guess now is the time. All right, so I guess can we go ahead and officially adopt the agenda for this month? Okay.
Can we just have a quick look at the agenda again?
I think it's on the screen.
Yeah.
It says adopt agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Adopting the agenda is one of the agenda items. That's right. Okay. Yes, I move that we accept the agenda.
All right. All right, so the official agenda discussion items was to talk, the first one, the item on the agenda was to talk about the infrastructure quote review. So I guess Dominic or Lauren, do you want to, I guess, set us up for where we are on the, I guess, the outstanding issues there or the questions that we're looking to answer?
So yeah, the infrastructure quotes were sent out to the committee a couple of weeks ago. We've walked the building twice with some of you, once with Andrew. Basically looking for this committee to provide a recommendation of what's mission critical to be operational in the building based on existing and needed infrastructure for the building. And I know Andrew was reviewing some of that stuff and I think was going to talk with the committee and provide some recommendations or some guidance.
Yes, jumping in on that one. Yes. So having an opportunity to obviously walk the building with everyone, and then having an opportunity to view the current equipment that Town Hall has located at the temporary facilities right now. So created an inventory list of that, and then a material recommendation for opening day, if you will, that is something that can be expanded upon and does scale, and had an opportunity to review that. And then, so Tom Breck, you should have a copy of that from me. If not, I will resend that to you. So I had a couple little email glitches over the weekend, so not sure if everything got delivered or not. So I'll circulate that. Or to everyone, right? Sorry, to everyone, not just. I know I was talking about it to you guys, but just circulate it to everyone. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think we were discussing offline the potential of what equipment we can pull in from the existing buildings, potentially reuse that at least to get us rolling for the dedication or the opening.
Yeah, so good news is right now, what they've been buying that does exist right now at the temporary facility is really some good high-powered core network switches. They do have a Unified Dream Machine Pro first edition, and coinciding with some of what Dom was already recommending, I think we can go with some other with a step up above it. With that, but also utilizing some of the existing equipment that's there that, again, gets the door open, but still allows for scalability. And I'll be happy to share all that with everyone. And that will be at a different price point that I think would be a bit more budget palatable for everybody's consideration.
So Lauren, were we under the gun to provide advice to the board?
Yeah, ideally, if I can get some commentary from this committee and kind of a recommendation, then potentially we could get the board, we can ask the board to take it up at Wednesday's meeting. If not, if they're not willing to take it up at Wednesday's meeting, then I would put it on the May workshop agenda, or I might call a special meeting of the board so we can get this moving, because we're kind of coming up to the wire here to get this stuff purchased and delivered in time to open.
And so that's the other thing. I did confirm availability of anything that we do have, any additional equipment that would be purchasing, that all of this is readily available. And so be easy to purchase, take delivery of, and staff to be able to integrate immediately.
Great.
Okay, so we probably need to review, Andrew, your list of the existing hardware, and then we can, I guess, communicate back and forth on, I guess, our thoughts. And then I guess we can provide Lauren with the recommended list of the hardware that we can purchase in the meantime, for short-term recommendation.
Sure.
Okay.
No problem.
And then Lauren, if
one
we can,
question.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, Andrew, what's the total ballpark you're thinking about with your recommendation, just price wise?
Approximately $3,500.
Oh, then I don't
below
need
the
board approval. I
$5,000
can,
threshold.
yeah, I can just execute that purchase then.
There you go.
With what they have already, again, this is opening day scenario that gets things working, with what they have, and then supplementing that with a few items that have a little bit more horsepower. I think it'd be pretty easy to integrate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
but it'd be below your $5,000 threshold there, so it'd be yeah. And again, everything's in stock, readily available, and staff can integrate it that day. So
Perfect.
Okay, so Lauren, we will kind of review that list offline and then just give you a response of the stuff that we can hopefully purchase in the meantime. And I guess if you can, since you can just do a PO, then yeah.
Yep.
yeah, and so the email. Sorry if I could jump in real quick. Everything that I was providing, so that I did an Excel spreadsheet that documented everything that was existing, and then links to the store for every. So it'd be an easy just we'll take one of these, 3 of these, 2 of these, whatever, and I provided all the links to everything so that everyone can verify pricing and availability independently. So, yeah.
So Andrew, is there anything, will they be able to dual operate in the new and the old at the same time with what you're suggesting?
Can you clarify that, Bill? Dual operate?
So is there anything that will be taken offline to put into 851 that would knock them offline at their current location? Or is everything you're specifying enough to get into the building and get started?
Good question. So I'm going to suggest a new router head end. So that would be independent, and then there'll be some additional switching that'll need to be there. But then some of the more higher powered core switches that are at the Seminole building would need to be migrated over. So, but presumably you would do something like this over a weekend. That's generally when most people migrate hardware. That way it's not causing a business interruption. And that would presumably also be coordinated with the smart city team for like IP migration and things of that nature. So if it's done right, if it's executed the right way, then it should have very minimal impact. Hopefully that answers the question,
Yeah,
Bill.
cool. Yeah, I was
other
just
than-
wondering if for an extra $500, both locations could stay on and they could build out 851 a little faster without relying on everything from the Seminole building. And just kind of in my thinking, I'm wondering if there's a way to do that.
I'm sure there is if we put enough thought behind it, where it could come online with, for instance, okay, one of the things, instead of using a Dream Machine Pro, we'll use the Unify Dream Machine Max, the Max, I think is what it's called, that has a bit more horsepower to it. And then another switch. Dom right now has a very good 10 gig core switch, which is in use at the Seminole building. But one of the recommendations to make sure that we have enough PoE ports, which they've got a decent amount now, but building out like another 48 port PoE switch. So I guess in theory, you could just kind of go to business with these two devices with some access points. That gets phone systems, desktops, and access points all online right there. And then if you need to, then you could migrate the 10 gig core switches and some of the other things that are currently over at Seminole Building. So that way, yes, I guess you could in theory, and you could do a little housekeeping later if you need to. But so yeah, I guess in theory, if you wanted to, you could kind of get things up and running independently. Bill, good question. So I guess it really just depends on how long they're blocking off for that physical move. Let's say town hall will be down and not operational from Friday till Tuesday, or what? I guess that's a question to ask of Lauren and Dom and the rest of the staff, is to understand what the game plan is for that actual physical move, not just of the IT equipment, but also of personnel and desks, et cetera.
So I'll say,
Just,
go ahead, Bill.
well, I was just going to say, in my past experience, we like to try to stand up the remote location as fast as we can, so it's starting to burn in, test, and all that fun stuff. Preferably like 2 weeks ahead of the day you're going to do your cutover move. But it's just a thought. I'm just trying to ask these questions. If we're not talking about major money, the ease of the move goes better when you've got two locations wired and running, and you're not having to rob from one to make the other work initially. So anyway, I'll stop talking. Please, Lauren, go ahead.
I was going to say, so this is our goal right now, is to close town hall operations Thursday the 4th and Friday the 5th of June to do that full cutover. That gives us the 8th and 9th to work out bugs, and then the 10th as the board workshop day is like the first full day open to the public. So we would have soft openings the 8th and 9th and the ribbon cutting ceremony on the 10th.
Okay.
And it seems like a feasible timeline.
Yeah.
Dom, is moving the equipment, are we going to need help doing that, or?
It's not, no, I don't need help in that sense. The sense is, like we discussed the other day, I am not for one to go constantly revisiting back into the network. I prefer to put in the network, have it up and running, and not revisit it again for the next 6 years, in essence. Putting in equipment that will open up and handle just for today, and then have to shut down every other weekend or whenever we buy the newer equipment, is too much manpower. I mean, if I were to ask my wife to spend every other weekend at town hall to fix up the network, I think she would divorce me. I prefer if we were to get at least the main core pieces and bought and set up and ready to go, and then adding the extra ports on the main system would be more feasible and easy to handle. We do have Unify Talk. We do have Unify Cameras Protect going. We have Unify. What else is there? Sorry. Yeah. And so once with those two systems on the Pro Max alone, will maintain it and handle it, but it will not handle the workload of the IDS and IPS for the security scans that it has to handle in that workload. Hence why the Enterprise Fortress product. And then the aggregation core. If we have at least the aggregation core and then we use whatever switches, then with those 3 pieces alone, it will be easier to get it to the design that I put out more easily throughout the day. You know, you don't have to spend the weekend. You could do it during the weekday and plug it in and get it all set up and ready to go. And all you have to do is switch the ports.
Well,
And that'll-
let's see. So I would say, let's see what the recommendation is from Andrew, and kind of we can start some conversations back and forth with the committee and us, and we can kind of do a cost benefit analysis between the expense of the equipment and the staff time that it would take to stand up the network and then potentially build it out further. And that way the board has all the information in front of them of whether they, do they want the upfront cost, or do they want to take the hours cost?
Andrew, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Andrew, if you didn't reuse any of the equipment that we currently have at the temporary town hall location, and you had to just buy all of those things in addition to the approximate 3,500 that you estimated a few minutes ago, what would be the incremental cost of that equipment, so that if they just could keep the existing system for as long as they had, forever, if they wanted to, and have a parallel site, what would that cost difference be?
Sure, good question. Off the top of my head, I don't have that answer readily available. What I did do as I was making that spreadsheet that documented all of the current equipment that's in place, was likewise, as I was providing links to the store for all of the new equipment recommendations, I was also giving hyperlinks to the store for all the current stuff, so we could also cross-reference it. So it'd be an easy thing for everyone just to kind of do your own audit and look at. So that'd be in there. We just need to click through a few. It's basically, like I said, a UDM Pro, a couple of Pro Max switches, a 10 gig Pro Max switch. Dom, the one that's in your office, that you've got a core switch in there. Every one of them is a 10 gig. It's like 16 ports, 10 gigs. Is it Pro Max Ultra? I'm just trying to remember the name of it. But also in my recommendation, I was also saying that instead of trying to run Unify Protect, which is the camera system, was actually one of the other ones was one of the other product recommendations was one of the Unify NVRs, one of the beefier NVRs, so that we could offload the Protect and put that onto that dedicated equipment. So therefore that CPU load wouldn't be required off of the Unify Dream Machine Max. So you'd save that processing power.
Dom, you mentioned your concern about the need for the Fortress Gateway, that you think that you need that equipment because it can handle the IPS detection because it's more robust and it can handle higher traffic. Like, is that based on anything, or do we have
well, it's based on sorry, I'm driving at the same time. So so basically it's the growth for our building, the events happening in there, plus the live streaming that we had, moving back to live streaming, doing all the things that we used to do in town hall, and plus with all the cyber awareness that's happening, the Unify Pro Max would probably handle a small office, but if we're doing all the buildings together in one location as one network, instead of having individual networks, you're going to have all that workload going through that one Fortress Gateway or through the Pro Max. Now, if we have all 11 sites, we have 6, 7 pools, and all guest Wi-Fi will be going through that network connection out through town hall. So you're talking quite a lot of scanning and monitoring through that network to make sure things are safe, to put it simply.
Do you have
So
do you have a diagram of how, I guess, the community is, like a rough diagram of how our buildings are connected?
right now they're all point-to-point connections. So you have a VPN tunnel to every location, and all their internet traffic is going out through their individual locations. If we're going through to do what we've planned to put in not the dark fiber because it's too expensive, but they have the ELAN, which will connect all our connections. They will remove the internet connections at each location and then have all the traffic go through into town hall directly and then out through the 2 internet connections that we will have there.
Okay.
Well,
So
could
dumb
that,
person
The
question.
Genesis, well, I was gonna say,
Sorry.
the Genesis idea was that the cameras would all home run back to 851 and we could consolidate the milestone system. That was the genesis
Correct.
for the conjoining of all the networks.
well, this is, this would, I mean, I would call this the Big Bang approach, where we try to get it all done at once, and I think because of the time frame, we know that we're not gonna be able to get it all done at once. We're not gonna be able to hook up all of the remote locations, other than through VPN tunnels like we do today, through permanent dedicated connections all on day one. So it's gonna have to be a migration that over time, I think we're all of us were on board with the concept of what you were trying to do, Dom, by bringing all of these remote locations to a central location, including we were even on board with Iverson Park doing one of those remote locations. But we're talking about something that's only a couple months out here. So it seems like we need to focus on just getting basic functionality in time so the town hall can open and it can basically work. They can have board meetings and the workers can all have desks and have computers and things like that, and then worry about migrating the bigger picture. And if that causes occasional outages at these remote sites as we do this, I think that's just going to be the cost of doing business. It's going to have to happen, and we would plan accordingly. If we have to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, that's what we would do.
Lauren, you had a question.
No, that's fine. Tom basically was saying what my question was pointed at.
Okay.
Yeah, and for that part, I agree with you, Tom. We can handle it because obviously we don't have the time. But I do recommend that we at least buy the two or three main core pieces. Either the Enterprise Gateway, the Unify Pro Max for the talk, Unify talk options, and the aggregation switch. Granted, the aggregation switch that I've picked is the enterprise grade. We can go for the smaller one, which is I think it's called the Unify Aggregation XS or something like that. I don't have anything in front of me at the moment, but I think it's one of those. It's the high end. It's called the high end aggregation, which has only 24 ports, I believe, which would be enough for now until we are able to go further. But at least with the aggregation switch and another 48 port switch, then all the other stuff I can slowly bring across, and we'll keep it as clean as possible.
Lauren, there's no reason why we can't sort of buy this stuff over multiple POs and sort of piecemeal it. So if we have to do kind of three POs to kind of get the base equipment that maybe Dom's kind of wanting in the short term, that we just kind of have 3 separate orders, even.
I'm fine with that. I just want us, I mean, I'm not saying we don't do things like that at town hall. We just try to do it sparingly when necessary because it's within the letter of the law, just not the spirit. But we would be open and honest with the board, in a weekly update saying we're making these purchases for town hall. We're spreading it over a couple of purchases to ensure that we aren't exceeding our threshold, but we want to make sure we're operational and these expenditures are in line with tech committee recommendations.
Now, I have a question. Would that fall out of operational spend or will that still come out of capital?
It's to be a capital expenditure, it needs to be a board approval for even $1. So these would come out of operations. If we're doing it operationally, we could ask the board to then at a later point change that expenditure to a capital expenditure, or we can just monitor the operating fund. I know we were over on IT. It wouldn't be a negative to the IT department from an operational perspective, but I mean, it's an outfitting cost of town hall that we need to address.
Yeah, it would just be a capital project that
Mhm.
could be approved and then bought in sections.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to
Okay,
probably.
saying that,
Go ahead.
sorry. So saying that, Bill, then does it need to be approved as a capital expense by the board first then? Or is this an after effect that you were
I
saying?
think, no, I think we started this call with saying Lauren would like to present to the board in the upcoming meeting the ballpark idea and get sign off on it. And that's your cover. How accounting handles it the rest of the way, that's for management to figure out. But you're going to tell the board roughly what the project's going to be anyway. So
Yeah.
I mean, we could go
Okay,
in with the full project cost and then come in under and be heroes.
Yeah, I mean, Dom, whether I purchase it out of operating and then get the board to approve it as a capital expenditure or as a reserve expenditure, we can do that within reason and just not excessively. But basically at this point, we looking for the recommendation from the tech committee. What levers can we adjust up or adjust down to address cost and the need to be functional and operational and be able to scale up as needed in the future, even to do, unifying all locations at town hall. That doesn't need to necessarily happen now, but whatever the tech committee recommends, I can figure out how to make it happen from a financial perspective. I need those numbers and information to present to the board for them to sign off.
All right, so I think we need to circulate Andrew's information across the committee, and we can have some offline discussions of just kind of that, and then I can put together, I guess, a brief recommendation, Lauren, that we can provide to the board so that they have something to talk about on Wednesday. At least let's start there.
Sounds good. We appreciate it.
All right, does we want to continue discussing this item, or would we like to move to the next topic on the agenda?
Breck, the only thing I just want to chime in a second, and it's
Sure.
to me, again, I'm not a network guy, I'm more of a systems person, but I think all of Dom's points and his diagram and everything is all fair. I mean, I think it's well thought out. And I think it's very similar to the AV thing. It's like, I don't know about the technology decision of this picture of what we can do and to what I've been hearing of what we have, and let's just make it work until things progress down the road and there's more money available, right? And I don't know if that's not a technology decision, right? That's not something I think I or a team influences that, Lauren. I don't know if that's something that we would go to the board about. I think, again, everything Dom laid out in the diagram is great. I think it's spec'd out for future growth and some of the vision that people have. But again,
so John, to address your point, I think we need to find a middle ground between the proposals from Dom and kind of, so what do I need to be just functional in town hall versus, I mean, what's the goal? So, and can we find some sort of a middle ground so we're saving staff costs, but we're also not throwing a big bill at the association in the middle of this $4 million project? Because we know fund balances in both, well, in the operating capital and reserve funds are going to dip to lows this year because we're doing the work we need to do. So we just need to find a balance in those goals.
Because I mean, I've been involved before, again, not from the networking side, but big Cisco network core switches that, I mean, 10, 20, 50 times more expensive, you know, on an enterprise side. So I just have a hard time again where I'm being asked, or we're being asked as a team, where it's more money than it is actual what the topology really looks like. Because I think it's all well thought out and planned. I just think some of it's on a spectrum, and Dom, you laid it out right. A Pinto, Cadillac, or a Ferrari, like who makes that decision, right? I don't think that's a technology decision.
No, I think that's what tech needs to, I mean, you need to say, this is the Pinto, this is the Cadillac, this is the Ferrari. We can get by with the, you know, I don't know, the Cadillac. We don't recommend the Pinto, and the Ferrari would really be great, but we don't need it. And then it's up to the board to decide where they want to drop their money.
Right. Agree. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. Can we share the agenda again,
Yes,
please?
it is right here.
All right, so the other topic of discussion was the town hall AV quotes review. So I know we had, I think, three quotes, or maybe that was the hardware quotes. I know we had the meeting with the AV vendor, or one of the AV vendors, on, was it Thursday or Friday? I think the concern that the committee had in that kind of sales conversation was that, again, the limitation of the budget, the money that we have available. I think the quote that we discussed was at the top end for everything was going to be approaching 250K or 225K. And I think everyone was kind of in agreement that that might be too big of a whale to swallow at the time, or at the moment. And, you know, potentially we will get kickback from the finance committee that, you know, we're all smoking drugs, you know, wanting to spend $250,000. So I think we were considering, or wanting to consider, what the short-term options were if there was something that we could do cheaper, and potentially, I guess, reuse, in this case again, existing hardware or that we have in the building. So
I think we can reuse some of the hardware that we have at Heritage Hall, because all of that was migrated over from Town Hall originally, and we can stand up and be operational. We probably would need to purchase some additional speakers, because the ones that have been installed in Town Hall are not the best and are crackling throughout the meetings. So I think there's some operational spending that we can do just to stand up a room. And then if this committee wants to continue to evaluate AV options for what a recommendation in the future to scale up to would be, then that gives us time for you to evaluate and really formulate what you want to see in those rooms, but gets us operational up front.
Well, since the meeting, I've been looking into a lot of these details of the proposals, and with bearing in mind the time frame and the cost. Those are the two dimensions that are really putting a lot of pressure on us. I think that we all agree that we're not going to go and propose 237-inch screens, although all of us would love to have those, because they would be very, very cool. But at $25K a piece, I just don't think it's in the best interest of residents of Celebration that we put that on the table. So, in the short term, just restating what you just said, I would think that the fastest thing to do and the most economical thing is just to relocate what we have. If we have a problem where some speakers are distorting, and this is easily fixed problems, power amps are very inexpensive. We can buy another PA, we can buy a pair of poles, we put some pole mounted speakers, buy some 50-foot cables, ran some cables further down the room if it turns out we have a big audience. And I can absolutely guarantee and put my reputation on the line for what little it's worth, that it will not distort and it'll sound just fine. Won't look real good, but it'll be fine to get us through the initial phases while we figure out what is a better long-term plan. Now, on the long-term side, I've been looking extensively at the audio side of the room, because I was somewhat shocked when the vendor said that we would have 16 speakers per room. However, I have to eat some crow, because it turns out that when you look at the dispersion of the speakers, in 16 is not that far off. I came up with numbers between 9 and 16 for the 48 by 48 room, the front room. I know that sounds obscene, but it's basically because the ceiling is not really that high. It varies between 10 and 12 feet. The dispersion, you could say the angle, is between 90 and 110 degrees. And so they have to be relatively close by in order for you to get the direct sound from the speaker. So that means there's going to be a lot of speakers. And so I've looked at different vendors with cost in mind. This is not something we're planning to do ourselves. This is what we're looking to do is really give some recommendations to whatever vendors and say, well, what do you guys think of this? And it's going to turn out there's going to be a lot of speakers on those ceilings. You know, to my surprise, I thought it would be like 6, and the lowest number I was able to come up with was 9. So, and I had numbers as high as 16 in simulations of the room environment. Thank you for those plans. I want you to know that we use them. I downloaded the plans for the ceiling architecture and the room dimensions, which come into play when we look at this audio. So I guess I just want you to know that we're on it. I actually worked on it today for quite some time today, just looking at the sound pressure level variation across the floor of the room. What would really be bad is if we had a meeting and we had any person in the meeting say, I couldn't hear what was going on. That would be a bad thing after we spend a lot of money to put in a permanent sound system. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. On the other hand, we don't want to go overkill and spend really an obscene amount of money, $225,000 on an AV system. So we're trying to, we're aware of the costs, the cost impacts and the implications after we're spending close to $4 million on a building. So we're on it. So my suggestion would be, as you just said, Lauren, take what you have. I'm sure that Dom has the wherewithal, and if he doesn't, we can certainly help him. You may remember that we actually put the speakers on the ceiling in the room that was there.
Mhm.
The cameras. It's not like we have a builder in the meeting right here. We certainly have the capability to help him physically get this thing up and running in time for the first meetings and subsequent meetings until we come up with a plan that we could get the board to buy off on for what the expense would be to make a permanent installation, meaning the in-ceiling speakers and permanent mounted displays and Teams room CPUs and all of that. But that's going to take some time.
Yep. That's perfect. Is there anything you need from us to continue your analysis or
Well,
work through this?
Bill has already given me some information. You know, you have what you had there. What Dom has actually done at Heritage is I can say from firsthand experience of watching the meetings, it works pretty good. pretty well. The cameras, you know, the tracking and all that. Now, I don't go to the meetings, so I wasn't aware of the audio problems that you just described, but from where we are watching the meetings, they generally sound pretty good. So I think we can get through just relocating that, bring the mics and everything over, and then that'll buy us some time. And if we need to, you know, I don't know, maybe things have changed, Lauren. I don't go to the meetings as like I used to attend all the meetings, but rarely were there a lot of people in the room. It was only like at the annual meeting that you had a full house, and then generally you'd have, you know, a dozen people or 20 at the most sitting in the room. So we're not talking about a lot of coverage area here.
Yeah, it's still the same.
So, you know, if we had to put up a pair of QSC speakers or something on some poles to get us some better audio, that's going to work. It's going to work.
Well, I know that Nikki is looking at, she was asking for newer speakers from the older Bose ones that we have for the outdoor meetings. So maybe we can make a
Yeah.
purchase with that in mind. That's temporary for town hall, but also usable by that team.
Yeah, that would be good. The Bose linear arrays, you know, the towers, super, excellent quality, really, really good. And then you could actually use them at some of the events at Lakeside, and they will sound fantastic. I used to own one, so I know you know how they sound. I had my own. So yeah, they sound really good. That'd be great if we're willing to put down that kind of money. They're kind of expensive, but
She has some money in her budget this year for new speakers. So
okay. Yeah, I know Andrew will get on board with it. We would like to convince Arson Park people to buy a pair of Bose linear arrays.
Agreed. And there's some alternative brands as well that may be a little bit less expensive, but similar
Yes.
quality. But can't argue with any of that logic right there, Tom. You know, agreed that the sound of them, the reputation they have for durability and useful life, which is obviously something that's important to consider in all of this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, and I think, you know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and
John.
Tom, and we talked a little bit about this after the meeting last week, Lauren. I mean, professionally, like I've been over at the Gaylord at the convention center there for many technology big shows, Gartner and everything else. And when you go in those conference rooms, they roll out speakers like that, the screens down the room and some of the bigger sessions. So it is very professional to see an environment like that, even though it's not as gorgeous as those two monitors that we've seen in the other diagram that he gave us.
Yeah. So the guy, I mean, it really was their proposal, other than being really, really expensive, with what technical detail they gave us. You weren't there, Lauren. It was disappointing on the technical side because they weren't real forthcoming with technical detail, and we're technical people, so we're going to ask technical questions. But based on what they put in their proposal and the questions that they answered from us, it was pretty solid technically. This is this one vendor that we met with. But it was expensive. So that was the downside. It was too expensive. So we're looking for something in the middle. We did discuss with the technology committee, like kind of in a semi or in an informal get together that you know, we could, and I think Dom even mentioned we could have HDMI over IP, not over IP, over Ethernet cables, and extend put a couple displays further down the room for those very rare times when we have big crowds and we need another display further, like we had before, like we used to have. Same thing.
Yeah, with the 3 sets of TVs. Yeah.
Yeah, and we could do that, and that will work. It's going to work. I think this is all possible. This is all solvable, and I think we can save a significant. We don't have to spend a couple $100,000 to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that we're looking at this committee to find out, you know, want versus need versus what's good for the association from a tech AV standpoint. Since it's your equipment, it's your meeting rooms, you know, what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
We're operating it and maintaining it for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, one of the quotes that you have in there is the
Yealink quotes from a third-party vendor. I think that came out to like, I can't remember. I think it was like 39,000. And that's with us installing everything. And that'll get all the rooms up and running with all the latest versions of the Yealink or BYOD products. The only thing it doesn't include is the TVs and stuff that we would need to put throughout those two or three meeting rooms.
The system you put in at Heritage, whose is that? That's not Yealink, right?
No, it's all Yealink.
Was it Yealink with the tracking camera?
Yep. It's all the stuff that was at Town Hall. I just
No,
configured it.
Town Hall, we had two cameras mounted on the ceiling.
Yep, that's two
Yep.
cameras on the ceiling.
Well,
Those two cameras you see there at Heritage Hall, plus the controlling unit and everything, that all came from room 104, which was the boardroom. I pulled that all out and moved it over to Heritage and just reconfigured it properly.
Okay, well, you're better at it than we are because we were never able to get it to work well. And the other Yealink rooms, we had two other rooms. We had the one that we used to be called the stick room, which is now Town Hall. And then we had the smaller conference room, which has gone away now, and there was Yealink in there. And we never were able to get those to work reliably. Even the one at Town Hall was unreliable and one of the cameras would be down. And so I'm happy to hear that you were able to get it to work. So, maybe it's good enough. I'm not a real big fan of Teams rooms for that reason, as we discussed, the fact that it's a closed architecture. That is, you cannot use other people's equipment on a Teams room. Not to say you can't use other people's equipment on Teams, because we're doing it right now in this meeting, right? I'm sure none of us have Teams rooms as we're sitting here. We have just Teams meeting on our standard computer. Teams room is a closed architecture, and therefore it limits what equipment that you can actually buy, what hardware you can buy. It has to be Teams approved. So just fundamentally, I think it's a bad idea. But if you're telling me that we've gotten it working and it's working fine, well, all right, that's a different story. I think we should exploit that and use it.
Yeah, like we'll have to take, I guess, another closer look at that Yealink quote. I know I didn't really get a chance to review it in depth. So perhaps we can look at that just to see, since it is significantly cheaper than the 225K. Maybe that doesn't solve the problem short term, but maybe that's something that we can propose as kind of like the phase 2 and more of the long term implementation. So,
Dom, quick question. Does the Yealink, the way it's set up at Heritage, does that require it to be a Teams room, or do we just have that set up as a room resource in Outlook?
No, so basically, yes, it is a Microsoft Teams room. The problem was when it was set up the first time, it was never linked into our domain. It wasn't connected to our Microsoft tenant. So once I connected it and reconfigured it into our tenant, Teams room started working fine. So you have to make it a resource in Microsoft Outlook, or in this case, Microsoft 365, which was formerly called Exchange. Once I did that, I set it all up on that end and made it a proper room. It then takes the license and becomes a proper room. Now, to Tom's point, yes, there's a lot of kit now out there that is, Teams room based as your main platform. But now, because the team room is a proper resource, whenever we set up a meeting that is with Zoom, with the Google Meet, or whatever platform it's going to be, as long as we tell the person who's using that platform, please invite the Teams room called, in this case, boardroom, and at Celebration Town Hall. Once they invite that, that room will automatically add itself and join any specific meeting with any other platform that we have out there. Plus, with Yealink and the Questrons and all these others have the BYOD product now, where you can just plug it in and be a part of the platform, not in the platform. So you become part of it, and you can use any device, any computer. So the equipment I got from Yealink has most of those features included, and the products that I've gotten from that vendor advise that Yealink will have a lot of the BYOD functions up and running by June, July as an updated software. So everything we're looking for is going to be available, and a lot of it is already available with their tools that they have. It's just, you got to play with it until they fix the play with it to make it inherent as part of the system by June,
Well,
July.
why don't we just move what we have from town hall over and see how well it works?
Yeah,
It'll work, but we just don't have all the pieces to make it work pretty. And yeah, granted, you're probably gonna spend, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, maybe $2,500 to get the pieces we need so that we don't have wires flowing everywhere, where we can do the wireless video feed, and we can do the wireless push from, say, Lauren's computer, Jacob's computer, or any board member's computer that they want to show something, whatever the case is. It can be done that way, and it's not, it won't cost that much, and we can probably we can probably do that with $2,500, and we could leave what we currently have at Heritage just in case as a backup room, and for $2,500 or $3,000 we can probably get what we need for town hall.
That sounds very reasonable to me.
yeah.
All
So
new.
Don, let's action on that one then, and just say let's spend the 2,500 or 3,000 to get town hall up and running. It's not necessarily going to be pretty, but we'll make it work, and then the committee can reevaluate the Yealink proposal after they see the basically Yealink room up and running in town hall, and then they can continue to evaluate and see if we want to move that forward and scale that up, or if we want to pivot.
All right, if they want to go with the vendors, they can go with the vendors.
Mhm.
And anything we put in town hall, we can say, like, if it's a system we can break down in half, we can say, okay, one half of it will go to Island Village. The other half will go to Island Village 2.0, and it'll be reused.
I mean, because we're going to have
So-
phase 2 Island Village operational at the end of this year. So even if we're buying something temporarily for town hall that we can phase out there in that meeting room, I mean, for $3,000, to me, that's reasonable.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I gave you the Pinto, I gave you the Cadillac Ferrari. So a lot of it, there's one other vendor who's giving us the Ferrari, and I'm like, well, he hasn't been able to get us the quote properly done. So I can tell him to forget it. And we
I
can
would
talk to
say-
the two Yealink people.
Yeah, I would scratch that. Bring the Yealink team in to meet with the tech group like you had that other vendor. And then if we need to find another one, or they have one that they're interested in speaking to, then we'll bring them in. But in the meantime, let's just get operational for the 2,500 3K.
Yep.
Is,
I'll go
is that
look at
okay
that
with this
stuff.
committee?
Yeah, very fair.
Look at the Yealink quotes I sent you, and let me know if you like any of those systems, completely new. And then we'll have to break it down to either bring it a little less if it's too expensive, or go for a version less. Like, I think the number I got was a Model 90. Maybe we can go with a Model 80, which will still give us everything we need, but it'll be, $500, $600 cheaper, and we can play with that $500 to buy, say, a BYOD part. instead. So let me know which parts you like. And when I get in tomorrow, I will start revisiting all my quotes and redoing the diagrams. And hopefully we get a diagram that we can all look at.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, Tom. All right, so I
Yeah.
know we're approaching time, so I think we have some homework for the committee. So do we want to continue this discussion, or do we want to, I guess, table this for follow-on? We'll close this out.
I think the best thing to do right now is table the discussion, and then we can address it in a special session.
Okay. All right.
Even if it needs to be just an offline meeting, that's not a formal meeting, and we can just meet either at the offices or at Artisan, wherever you guys want.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll move on to the next item in the agenda for committee comments. Does anybody have any comments to make before we adjourn?
Everybody got their applications in for the next season, so to speak,
Yes.
of Tech Committee?
Everybody on this call did, yes.
Oh, sorry, you missed
Okay.
it at 5:30. Sorry, you all missed it.
Okay.
No, you
Is
guys
it-
all made it.
Do they
Okay, good.
decide that tomorrow? Lauren, or
On Wednesday, Tom. Yeah,
Wednesday,
Mhm.
okay. Okay,
You also got
Lauren,
one or two new people who were interested that applied. So might get
Okay.
some new interest, which will be good.
very good. Okay,
All right. So can we go ahead and get a motion to adjourn this month's
So-
meeting?
so
Go ahead. Tom.
Second.
Second. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending this makeup session from last week and taking the time out of your Monday night so that we could get this done. Lauren I'll follow up with you. We will have look over the information that we have and then try to get you some comments on what we want to do, propose to the board for Wednesday.
Great. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Appreciate
Thank you all.